What if I told you that one of the greatest love songs ever written came from a young man who never planned to become a superstar? Before the fame, the sold-out arenas, and the millions of records, Lionel Richie was just a college student from a small town in Alabama, with a tennis scholarship and a dream he didn't fully understand yet. But through talent, determination, and an extraordinary gift for writing songs, he would rise to become one of the most beloved voices in music history. This is the incredible story of the man behind Hello, Stuck on You, and All Night Long, the journey of a young dreamer who taught the world how to sing about love. Before he became one of the most recognizable voices in music history, before he sold millions of records and filled stadiums around the world, before songs like Hello, Stuck on You, and All Night Long became part of the soundtrack of generations, Lionel Richie was simply a young boy growing up in the American South. His story begins not with fame or fortune, but with family, education, discipline, and a community that quietly shaped one of the most successful entertainers the world would ever know. Lionel Brockman Richie Jr. was born on June 20th, 1949, in Tuskegee, Alabama, a town with a unique place in American history. Tuskegee was known for education, culture, and the influence of the famous Tuskegee Institute, founded by Booker T. Washington. Unlike many towns in the segregated South, Tuskegee had a strong tradition of academic achievement and Black excellence. This environment would play a major role in shaping the young Lionel Richie. His father, Lionel Richie Sr., served in the United States Army and worked within the educational system. His mother, Alberta Richie, was an educator. Education was highly valued in the Richie household. Discipline, respect, and hard work were not optional. They were expected. Growing up in such an environment meant Lionel learned from an early age that success was something earned through commitment and perseverance. The Richie family lived on the campus of the Tuskegee Institute. This gave young Lionel a front-row seat to an environment filled with teachers, scholars, professionals, and ambitious students. He was surrounded by people who believed that education could transform lives. While many future musicians grew up in neighborhoods dominated by the music industry or entertainment culture, Lionel's world revolved around learning, achievement, and community service. As a child, Lionel was naturally curious and outgoing. Friends and family members often described him as charismatic and approachable. He enjoyed interacting with people and had a gift for making others feel comfortable around him. Long before he ever stepped onto a stage, he possessed qualities that would later make him a beloved performer. There was something about his personality that attracted people. Music was always present in his life. Gospel music filled churches. Soul music played on radios. Rhythm and blues records found their way into homes and community gatherings. The sounds of artists who would later become legends were already shaping his understanding of melody and storytelling. Yet at this stage, music was simply one part of his world, not necessarily his future career. Interestingly, Lionel's first serious passion was not singing, it was sports. He became an outstanding tennis player and demonstrated enough talent to earn attention from coaches and recruiters. During his teenage years, tennis seemed like a realistic path toward success. He trained hard and competed regularly, developing the discipline and focus that athletes require. These same qualities would later help him survive the demanding world of entertainment. When the time came for college, Lionel attended Tuskegee Institute on a tennis scholarship. At that point, few people imagined that the young athlete would one day become a global music icon. He was focused on education and athletics, pursuing opportunities that seemed practical and achievable. Yet fate had other plans. College exposed Lionel to new experiences, friendships, and creative opportunities. Music began playing a larger role in his life. He started spending time with students who shared his interest in performing. He learned to play the saxophone and became increasingly involved in campus music groups. What began as casual participation gradually evolved into something much more serious. During the late 1960s, America was undergoing major social and cultural changes. Music was becoming one of the most powerful forms of expression. Soul music, funk, rhythm and blues, and rock were influencing young people across the country. Lionel found himself inspired by artists who could move audiences emotionally through lyrics and performance. It was during this period that the foundation for his future career was established. While attending college, Lionel joined a student musical group that would eventually evolve into one of the most successful bands of its era. That group would later become known as the Commodores. At first, The band was simply a collection of talented young musicians trying to perform at local events and campus functions. They played wherever opportunities existed. College dances, fraternity events, community gatherings, and local venues became their training ground. Like many aspiring artists, they faced uncertainty. There was no guarantee of success. There was no certainty that music would become a career. The early years required persistence. The group experimented with different styles, worked on their sound, and gradually developed a reputation for energetic performances. Lionel initially contributed as a saxophone player and songwriter. Although he would eventually become known primarily as a singer, his early role within the group was broader than many people realize. One of the characteristics that quickly distinguished Lionel from others was his ability to write songs. He understood emotion. He understood relationships. Most importantly, he understood how to express feelings in ways ordinary people could relate to. This gift would become one of the defining strengths of his entire career. As the band gained confidence, they began pursuing larger opportunities. The road was not easy. Like countless aspiring musicians, they faced rejection, financial challenges, and uncertainty. Success rarely arrives overnight. Behind every famous artist are years of struggle that audiences rarely see. The turning point came when the Commodores secured opportunities to perform for larger audiences. Their energetic blend of funk, soul, and rhythm and blues music began attracting attention. They developed a reputation as a powerful live act, capable of exciting crowds and keeping audiences engaged from beginning to end. One of the most significant moments in their early career came when they were selected to open for the legendary group the Jackson 5. For young musicians trying to establish themselves, this opportunity was enormous. Performing in front of large audiences exposed them to new fans and industry professionals. It also showed them what success at the highest level looked like. The experience taught Lionel and his bandmates valuable lessons about professionalism, preparation, and stage presence. Watching established stars perform reinforced the reality that music could become more than a dream. It could become a career. As the Commodores continued developing their sound, Lionel's importance within the group grew steadily. His songwriting contributions became increasingly valuable. He possessed an instinct for creating melodies that remained in people's minds long after the music stopped. He also understood emotional storytelling, a skill that would later define his solo career. Yet at this stage, the future remained uncertain. The band had talent, ambition, and determination, but the music industry is filled with talented people who never achieve widespread recognition. Success required not only ability, but timing, opportunity, and persistence. What separated Lionel Richie from many others was his refusal to quit. Whether through sports, academics, or music, he approached challenges with discipline. He understood that achievement required patience. That mindset would prove essential as the Commodores continued fighting for recognition. By the early 1970s, the group's hard work began producing results. Their performances attracted larger audiences. Industry executives started paying attention. Doors that once seemed permanently closed began opening slowly. The dream that started in college classrooms and small campus events was gradually transforming into reality. Few people could have predicted what would happen next. The young man who once imagined a future in sports was about to begin a journey that would eventually make him one of the most successful singers, songwriters, and entertainers in modern music history. But before the awards, before the chart-topping singles, and before worldwide fame, there was simply a determined young man from Tuskegee who believed in hard work, family values, education, and the power of music. And that young man was only getting started. As the years passed, the young boy from Tuskegee would eventually become far more than a student, an athlete, or a member of a college band. The values he learned from his family, the discipline he developed through sports, and the creativity he discovered through music would become the foundation of one of the most remarkable careers in entertainment history. The world would come to know him as a singer, songwriter, producer, performer, and global icon whose music would touch millions of lives across generations. From humble beginnings in Alabama to international stages around the world, Lionel Richie's journey would prove that greatness rarely begins with fame. It begins with preparation, patience, and the courage to follow a dream when nobody else can see where it might lead. Long before the awards, before the platinum records, and before his songs became part of the soundtrack of people's lives, he was simply a young man determined to make something meaningful out of his talent. Today, Lionel Richie remains one of the most respected figures in music. His songs continue to play on radio stations across the world. New generations continue to discover his voice. His influence can be heard in countless artists who followed in his footsteps. Decades after his first performances, his music still brings people together, still tells stories of love and hope, and still reminds listeners of the power of a great song. Not many artists are fortunate enough to become legends during their lifetime. Even fewer get the chance to witness the impact of their work across multiple generations. Yet Lionel Richie has done exactly that. His story is not merely about success in music, it is about perseverance, family, education, faith in one's abilities, and the belief that ordinary beginnings can produce extraordinary outcomes. And perhaps that is the most important lesson from his journey. Before he became a global superstar, he was simply Lionel Richie from Tuskegee, Alabama. The fame came later, the records came later, the applause came later, but the character, discipline, and determination that made it all possible were there from the very beginning. If you find today's video informative, kindly hit on the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell.